Hello and welcome back to the channel. It's Mark from PowerSonic and Apprentice 121. Today I want to do a little video where we're going to have a look at the G99 side of things. I've had a few installers who were coming into the solar PV space as I did a few months ago, wondering how you go about completing those and the difference between G98, G99 and G100, export limitation and all of the things we need to be doing around that, and having a look at some of the MCS side of the paperwork we have to look after as well for making sure we're ticking all the right boxes with that, and talk a little bit about the training that we've done through the course of entering into the solar PV and battery storage space, the reason we've done it, how we found it, and just to give a bit of insight to the steps people might need to take on their journey into the solar PV and battery storage space, and the things we've done to help us transition into this area as smoothly and as quickly as possible. So let's get straight to it. We'll have a look through some of these various bits and pieces and draw some conclusions along the way. Okay, so I thought we'd start by having a look at the NAPIT Training, and you can see here on their website they've currently got the solar PV and electrical energy storage system course for £895. I think that is incredible value. It's a 5-day course and it's accredited by BPEC, and they're running that in Bristol, Mansfield, Oldham, Potters Bar, Halifax, Maidstone and Telford. And you can see there the focus is 3 days on the solar PV and then a couple of days on the EESS. You need your passport pictures. I forgot those when I went to do my NAPIT training and had to zip off to the local Morrison's. So if you end up in the same position as me, there is a Morrison's in Asda, not very far away, where you can get your passport photographs. The course prerequisites is that it's for practicing electricians, and you should hold a formal craft qualification, the level 3 NVQ, your wiring regulations and such. So you can check that out on their website. If you did want to break it down into sections, because you can't do the 5 days all in one hit, you can do that. So they offer these courses here where you can see they also use LCL as an accredited provider and BPEC. So if we look at the BPEC one again here, just for the solar side of things, you're looking at £600 plus VAT, and that's for 3 days. So you can do it separately if you wanted, rather than all in one hit. I appreciate taking a full week out of work can be a bit of a hassle. So having the opportunity to break it apart and even split up your learning as well, I found that the best way sometimes, rather than block training yourself across a whole new different aspect of technology is more difficult than focusing on the solar first and then the battery storage. But we're all different. Some of us want to get it out of the way. That is giving you all of the options, which is a fantastic thing for NAPIT to do. And I'll drop a link alongside this video if you want to go off and check out their website and have a look at the training. You can do. So once you've got to the place where you've completed your training and you've got all of your insurances in place and all of the other stuff to do with the test equipment you're going to need, and I've covered that on prior videos already. We got kitted out with the TIS gear. Again, be a link in the solar playlist if you want to go off and find that and see what equipment we got and put into place. You would at present have to register with HICE or REC, but MCS have recently come out and said that from next year that's not going to be compulsory. It's up to us to choose to be a member of those consumer protection codes of practice. It costs between 800 to sort of £1,000 a year, so it's not an insubstantial amount of money, and MCS are putting a process in place of their own that kind of fulfills what they're doing anyway. So I don't think we're going to be renewing that membership ourselves going forward. We'll be doing our insurance policies through MCS directly, because there's no point, I don't think, repeating something in a different place. And to be fair, some of the consumers who've ended up interacting with those bodies trying to seek some support after other installers have gone out of business, for example, haven't been given the level of care that might be expected, I think is fair to say, in my experience anyway. So yeah, that's one. If you are in a rush to get started, you might want to look at getting in HICE and REC, but knowing the time we had to wait to register with those, it's probably not going to happen before the start of the new year anyway. And yeah, in 2024, you don't need to worry about that unless you want to worry about it. So the other aspect then is to sort of look towards your MCS registration, and you would do that with NAPIT or another CPS provider. There are a few other options you can choose from, and they will guide you through that. You basically need to have your qualifications in place, all of your policy documents around the QMS manual. If you're unfamiliar with that terminology, you need to start doing some research now. And there is software that can help you with that, such as EasyPV, Paperclip, and other things such as that. We've actually got our own bespoke system now that we've built ourselves, but you can use those packages to really help. You know, if you struggle on the paperwork side of things, EasyPV for your design kind of stuff, and then having your Easy MCS for all the paperwork and QMS manual is a great way to get yourself started, really, and then you can pick more up as you go along if you should wish. Then you can start looking at doing some installations, and generally speaking, you're looking at G98s and G99s. So I'm going to show you some information now from my DNO, and they explain things quite clearly for us as installers, which is good to see. And obviously in Yorkshire, we're with Northern Power Grid, which was the old Yorkshire Electricity Board. And they actually set out here what the difference is between a G98 and a G99. So for single or multi-phase generators at a single premises of up to 16 amps, so 3.68 kilowatt per phase, you complete a G98. And in essence, with a G98, you can do your installation first and then notify them within 28 days that you've connected that equipment onto their service provision, if you like. And whereas a G99, you have to actually apply to them first and ask for permission to connect. So they're the kind of key differences there. And that's if you're over 16 amps, you need to be doing a G99. And generally speaking now, when people are going for the combined battery storage and solar PV systems, you're in G99 territory by default anyway, and most people want solar PV arrays, if they've got the roof space for them, above 3.68 kilowatts now anyway. So generally speaking, we're doing G99s, and the process for that is you fill the form in to notify the DNO that you are wanting to connect to their equipment. They'll then do some number crunching at their end and write back to you to say yes or no. If you're given approval, you can then proceed with your installation within a set time frame, and then you send them the commissioning sheets basically after you've finished, which show the installation complete with some test results, and they'll then reply to you saying, yep, message received, we've logged that onto our system now, and that's kind of it. That's the process finished. And the consumer, when they're making their application to the energy supplier for an export MPAN, they will need evidence of that. That's one of the things they ask for. So they ask for the G99 approval alongside the MCS certificates at present and your electrical installation certificate as well. So they do ask to see some bits of evidence before they will give export MPANs. So it's not just a case of winging it and installing stuff for your customers. They will be wanting to sell that excess energy, and you need to be providing them with the right bits of paperwork so they can do so. Now, a new thing that's just sort of sprung up of late is a lot of these DNOs are now doing fast-track G99 applications. So with these, there are certain installation procedures based on what you're kind of doing. So procedure 1 is for kind of your smaller scale stuff, really. Procedure 2 is where it's a little bit bigger in short term. I won't read through it all. You can see it there on the screen in front of me. If you want to go off and have a read of that yourselves, you can do. And then procedure 3 is sort of for the bigger systems, and typically when we're installing Give Energy AIOs as an example, that's what we're using, because usually there's kind of an existing PV array, maybe an addition of some new PV, and then you've also got the 6 kilowatt inverter in the AIO itself. So with those, you need to be keeping under 60 amps per phase maximum for all of the equipment sort of together, and to be able to do the G100 export limitation scheme of no more than 32 amps into the network. And obviously with the Give Energy system, you can do that and satisfy those requirements. You have 3 months to do your install and commission the generation once your form has been approved, and that must be sent to the DNO within 28 days of commissioning. So again, there is rules around all that, and I think they give a reasonably short window of time because they don't want to be blocking up slots that a next door neighbour might want to take, for example. There's obviously a certain amount of capacity that the DNO can accept onto the network, and if you're sat on a fast track G99 for a year or whatever, kind of holding that space, it's denying someone else who may be in a position to proceed further forward. So they seem to have narrowed down those timescales. When you come to filling in your G99s, and I've been asked a few times about this by other installers, and I've been given great help by Stuart Cato on this myself, so I'm sharing this in the hope that it might help other people. So you need the generator details, which would include their name, their address, postcode, if there's a different contact person, just basic data entry, their email address, and then the MPAN, so that's existing MPANs that they have on the premises, and they can get them from their electricity bills, and you can inquire for that information as well. MCS have a database of that. As a little tip, if you're already registered, you can go into the MCS portal and get that information out of there as well. You can see here your installer details, so you need to put your information in there, your accreditations and qualifications, your addresses, the contact person, phone number, email address. And then you need the installation address details again, and the MPAN again as well. So if you've got any existing equipment, you would put that in this space. So you can see on this form here, we've got an existing SMA inverter, and we pop that information in there. There's no energy storage data with that one. These numbers here, so this R11 is from right at the bottom of the sheet. They have a code, don't know why, but they have a code process for what you're actually referencing. So you can see here R is solar, and then 11 is photovoltaic. So that's what that code represents. If we scoot back up again, so this could be blank. If you're on a new install and there's no solar or anything, you just leave that blank and you'd go on to the next section. And this is where you enter the equipment that you're installing, and you can see here we've got a Solax inverter again, solar PV, so it's the R11. The manufacturer's reference number is from the ENA approved register. So if you go onto the internet and search ENA approved register, it takes you to their database online where you can search for your proposed equipment that you want to install and check that it is on the ENA approved register for connection to DNO equipment. It has to be approved and on that list so you can connect and comply with the things they want you to be doing. So you need to make sure what you're choosing is from there. Most equipment sold in the UK is, but it's worth checking to make sure. And there's codes for that set on the ENA register, so you can see here it's saying Solax and then a series of numbers and such. That references back to that register. And then you put your size of generation that you're using here. So that's the inverter capacity and the PV array capacity. And then we've also got the Give Energy AIO basically. And again, that's an S34, because if we look at the codes at the end, you'll see S is stored energy and 34 is lithium polymer batteries. So you need to make sure you're choosing the right battery chemistry when you come to fill that in. And again, you've got your 6 kilowatt inverter and 13.5 kilowatts of stored capacity. You then have to answer some statements that it asks you, and that relates to the form that you're actually processing. The questions are different depending on which G99 you're using. And they ask for a copy of the single line diagram with your proposal. So if you're using EasyPV, for example, it generates you that. If you do have an existing PV array, you need to make sure you add that into your design, even though you're not going to be installing it, so it shows on the schematic. So pop it in there. You can always delete it afterwards once you've got your schematic outputted, and make sure that you're referencing the capacity of all of your inverters on there, because I know the Give Energy AIO on the schematic doesn't show its rating, so you need to manually type that in. Really easy to do with EasyPV. And then if you want, you can go to the ENA website where the register for all those products is we just spoke about, and download their G99 approval sheets. I do it just to pop them in with the email to make it really easy for the DNO to hopefully process your application more quickly, and send that along on the email. You need to then date it and sign it and etc. So you have got everything done, and then email that in and sit and wait. They'll write back to you if you've missed something out. So I sometimes forget the single line diagram, forget to attach it. They'll write back and say, we've received your application, but to process it, we need the single line diagram. Send that over, and then usually within about 10 days or so, they will write back to say yes or no. Some of the DNOs will send you an email in the interim, say they've progressed it for review and they've acknowledged receipt of your application. And again, I think some of the DNOs now do an online application process where you can just fill a form in on the internet. I know Northern Power Grid are doing that now. So you can register and create an account and then submit your applications direct through the website rather than filling in these forms. But I thought we'd go through that. It's really simple and straightforward, to be honest, and I've never had an issue doing a G99 or a G98 with Northern Power Grid. So I hope that explains That little segment is just data entry, basically. Tell them what you want to install, what's already there, what the address details and MPANs are, so they can process that application. So then you can look at the MCS database. So once you are fully registered and you've gone through your NAPIT training, you've had your on-site assessment, and you've done an installation, you are going to want to process an MCS certificate. And basically, that's quite a straightforward thing to do. So your installation, we'll say it's domestic. The technology we've installed is photovoltaic, installed in an existing building. Overall cost, put whatever, we'll just put 10,000 in there for now. If you want to put the customer's email address in, you can, and have a reference, you can as well. We'll just leave those blank. We'll then tick the box to say we want to generate the certificate and any of the associated costs. And this is where you can buy your insurance-backed guarantee. And these are 2, 5, and 10 year, so you can select whichever you wish. Just pop the 2-year one on there for the minute and process along. So then we're choosing if it's above roof or in roof. Just wants to know about the system you've installed, really. So again here, if we say we've put some Van der Valk rail on, for example, pitched roof, and then we'll just add a solar panel as well, just so we've got one in there. What solar panels shall we go for? Let's have some Jinkos. And then you can just choose your products, choose one of those. And there's just one, that's a small solar system. And then we can go to the next screen. You put the address in, so I'll just use the address here. See if we can do this. Search for it. I'll just pull up anybody on here. Let's go for workshop 4. You just need to remember not to pay for this and actually apply for an MCS certificate. You then detail what you've actually installed. Whatever you want to put in here will be set on your PV design. Your planning permission, so permitted development rights. Generally, if you are on roof, you don't need planning. If you're going for a flat roof and you're over 200 mil off the roof face, then you would probably need planning. So it's one of those to make sure you keep aware of if you're doing flat roof systems. But usually you've got your permitted development agreed there. So building reg notification after the installation through a CPS. We'll talk about that in a minute. Is it green deal? No, it's not. And then we click next and move along. So this is about your G99. So you can see here if it was G99 G98. So consent to connect obtained prior to connecting, or to be notified post connection and commissioning. So that's if it's G98. We'll do this one as a G99. Click next. Then you've got your declared net capacity if it's a standalone system. The serial number of your meter. It's meter reading. We'll just stick one of these in here for the minute. And we can do next to scroll along. You then put in the system owner details. So I'll just put me. See if we can get to the end screen without having to actually notify anything. And do next. And then you can see how much it costs. And this is the last little step. Once you've done this, you go through the payment process. So you're paying for your MCS certificate and the insurance-backed guarantee. It will then produce a PDF which basically details everything you've just inputted into a fancy-looking certificate. And on that certificate, it will display the customer's MPAN number, so their existing MPAN. It will display the IBG, so your insurance-backed guarantee policy number. And everything's kind of in that one document for you to hand over to the customer. So when they're applying for their export MPAN via their energy supplier, they've got everything they need with their G99, their electrical installation certificate, and their MCS. That's really all they need. And then with your job processing, so when you're doing your QMS database and looking after all of the data for that one job, you can put your scaffold details, your pictures of the job for where your roof hooks are installed and your cables penetrate the existing roof structure, your electrical installation certificate, your G99 application, the approval, the commissioning, your test results for the solar PV, the CPS notification, the instruction manuals for the products you've installed, all into the software package stored under that job. We tie all that together with ServiceMate. As I say, if you use Easy MCS or Paperclip, that does that for you as well and produces a handover pack for you to give to the customer. just to speak about the CPS side of things, and again, as I said, we use NAPIT, and we have a separate membership number for the solar PV side of things, which I'm currently working with NAPIT on getting put onto our main membership number. For some reason, we've ended up with these two separate accounts during the course of our application, so I need to get that sorted out. I've just reminding myself of that. I have been speaking to them for the last couple of weeks, so I need to push that over the line. But this is, if you're familiar with notifying jobs through your CPS already, just normal electrical stuff, it's pretty much the same. You put your work completion date in, any reference numbers and such, and then the installation details when you go to the next screen. Let's just say we've completed something today. We'll give it a little reference. You put the customer's details in. So again, we'll just put me, and then it might let us proceed. Okay, so we've gone across to the notification side, and basically here you select as normal if it's microgeneration or electrical. So usually with your PV systems you'll have a new circuit going in as well, so you put both things on there, and your photovoltaic, and just do the drop down. So photovoltaic, we did it in a house, and now the phone's ringing. See if I can quickly finish this section before I answer it. You put your warranty provider's details in there, and then you add the work, submit it. It'll take a payment for that, and that's your CPS side of things notified. So a bit of a long one, I appreciate, with looking at all of this, and if you're already in the solar industry, this will be old news to you. But I do get asked lots of questions about this on different social media platforms, so it's a good place to pull it all together, share this video out for those who might be following along, wanting to see how I approach it. And there is all kinds of other things you're doing alongside of this as well, to do with your testing and recording all of that data and information. As I said, there's other videos on the channel already about that. And then the specific commissioning and software updates of all the products as well. So, you know, it's quite difficult. If you're going down this road, anticipate a time frame of 6 to 9 months to do your training, get your MCS assessment in place, produce a sample installation, usually on your own home or a family member's, and get yourself registered. Now, HICE and REC are not necessarily part of that equation. You can perhaps do it a little bit faster than we maybe did. And yeah, just go for it. It's well worth it. Once you've got in there, there is an absolute vast supply of work at the minute. We're certainly seeing that. You know, I kind of approach this that we might do 2 or 3 installs over a summer just to get into the swing of it. But as I've been sharing some of the stuff we've been doing, and a very small amount of local marketing through the website and stuff, it's just blown up, and we're doing nothing but solar PV and battery storage at the minute, and it's exciting. That's what my team members all want to be doing. And, you know, whilst we're seeing a bit of shrinkage, if you like, in the wider economy with HS2 stopping and been a surge in labour to cover some of these other projects, it all kind of filters down in the end. Adding the diversity to your repertoire is a good place to be. So it's well worth pushing through it. The cost aspect is there. There is no getting away from that. You're looking at around £1,000 on your training, plus the lost time at work while you're doing it. Your MCS fees are also about £1,000 or so. It's good that the HICE and REC cost burden's maybe not there. You've got a few £1,000 on test equipment. There's all the access equipment for going onto roofs as well that I've shared before, in terms of safe movement of equipment, keeping yourself safe, and just upgrading some of the equipment you might have already had as well. So you're looking at impact drivers, combi drills, just more of them up on the roof space when there's a few of you maybe working, and then a torque wrench for tightening down your fixing system for the arrays. So usually they're going up to 9 Newton meters ish for your clamps and such, so you need to factor those costs in as well. Anyway, waffling, we'll turn this into a mammoth video if I'm not careful. If you've got any other questions around any of this, please do drop them in below. I will happily try and give any bits of knowledge I've gleaned over the prior months and years. And again, massive thanks to Stuart Cater and Dan from DMH Electrical for their help and guidance while I've been getting going in this space. There are loads of installers out there who'd be more than willing and happy to help you. Just reach out through social media, ask questions. I think the installer pool within the solar PV and battery storage place are all about supporting each other and making the industry better. So good luck with it, and I'll see you on the next one.